Why are habitual things stronger than things which we do on a one-off basis? Because we do them again and again.
The outside light acts as the shade of peace, but it is only external. The real peace should be inside.
When we have become such a person, what we have is always peace and happiness.
When was the last time you told the person who's closest to you that you love them?
Sawadee-ka. Welcome to Meditation for All. I am Sanan Pandotjan and I will be guiding you through the program. Last time, Venerable Nicholas had stressed the need for us to have a clear idea of the consequences of our actions. This time, he would deliberate on the law of karma, which, simply put, is like the third of Newton's law of physics, which states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, and how it affects the choices that we make in our lives.
So this is the third session of the Buddhist Concepts course, and yesterday I left you with the idea that given that there's up and down slopes in the prosperity and well-being of the human race, which depends upon how people conduct themselves, then it becomes important to have a clear idea about the consequences of one's actions, the sort of consequences which would lead our existence to improve in the future so that we can do more of them, and the sort of consequences which are maybe negative for our future, which we would like to try to avoid. This brings us to the subject of the law of karma, which, simply stated, is that you tend to reap the seeds which you sow. So if you sow seeds which are unwholesome, then unwholesome things will tend to come back to you. If you sow seeds which are wholesome, then wholesome things will tend to come back to you. This is not to judge things as good or bad, because we always have the idea of free will in Buddhism. But it is common sense that if you want to avoid things in your future which are likely to bring you suffering, then it's better to make choices to avoid things which will create those outcomes in the future. And this is the basis of morality in Buddhism. It's not that you would get a random outcome from the things which you do, but in general, if you talk about actions and how many different sorts of actions there are, then you can categorize actions, whether it's the things that we do, or the things that we say, or the things that we think, into actions which are wholesome, which will bring good outcomes in the future, actions which are unwholesome, which will bring bad outcomes in the future, and then there are even some sort of actions which are neutral. For example, just walking up and down or twiddling your thumbs doesn't create any sort of karma either in a good or a bad way. It's simply using up your time. And the second thing is that for the law of karma, the person who does an act which is karmic will be the person who receives the consequences of those actions. So it's not that the father does a particular act of karma and the rest of the family receive the consequences. It will come back to the person who did that act of karma. Make sense so far? The law of karma seems quite common sense on the face of it. It's quite like the law of action and reaction, which we have in physics. That any sort of action which occurs in the physical universe will have an equal and opposite reaction which comes back. So the energy which one expends in doing some sort of action doesn't just disappear, but it comes back. And it comes back to the person who did that in the first place. Not just in a random way, but with the same sort of wholesome or unwholesome quality that went into that action in the first place. So far so good? And if we want to learn about the law of karma and the way in which it works, then it's useful to know about what sort of things make a difference to how strong, how potent a particular action might be. And the general rules of thumb which we have are that any action which has a strong intention behind it will tend to have stronger karmic fruit or retribution coming back as a result of it. So for example, if you are a faithful supporter of the temple and you like to bring food for the monks every day, the strength of intention it takes to bring food for the monks on a day when it's sunny and there's no traffic on the roads is less than to do the same thing when there's a lot of traffic and it happens to be blowing a hurricane. Because you need to convince yourself over and over again, come on, you must fulfill this wish of yours to reach the temple with this food to offer to the monks. So the intention is stronger. So although the amount of food you bring to the temple may be the same, but the strength of the karma is more in the case that you have had to use a stronger intention to fulfill that purpose of yours. Secondly, the amount of effort you put into an action will tend to be proportional to the amount of karma coming from that action. Is killing an ant the same as killing an elephant? Yeah, it's harder. You have to make a lot more effort to kill an elephant because maybe it takes you days to dig the hole in the ground to catch the elephant in, during which time you have the same thing going through your mind, to go through with this and to make special effort. Maybe it takes you days of preparation to kill the elephant. But for an ant it may be just a single slap of the hand and that's the job done. So the amount of effort also has a role to play in the strength of the karma. Okay? So it's not just one action has a fixed amount of karma attached to it. It depends on the person who does it as well. How strong is the intention, how much effort is made. And a third thing to bear in mind is also the amount of gratitude or ingratitude which that act of karma expresses. For example, if you were to treat a stranger in a bad way, it would not be such heavy karma as treating your parents in a bad way, because you have a much stronger debt of gratitude to your parents who have, over the years, spent so much time and effort to bring you up, to feed you and clothe you all that time, so that if you weren't to treat them in a good way, then the karma would be much stronger than doing the same thing to a stranger. So the amount of ingratitude or gratitude involved also has an effect on the amount of karma. But in Buddhism, if we're talking about karma, the actual word karma just means action. Often it means intentional action. So karma is something which we do. As for what comes back to us as a result of that action, we call that retribution, or the fruit of the karma. So what you get back isn't karma. Karma is what you did in the first place. But what comes back to you is the retribution or the fruit of the karma. The law of karma seems quite fair to some people. On the face of it, it may seem rather like a self-regulating form of justice. But as we can see, even certain actions have very high degrees of retribution attached to them, sometimes much more than you would expect for a seemingly trivial action. But if you understand the mechanisms of how karma works, then it will help you to understand why sometimes the fruits of karma seem way out of proportion to the original act which caused it in the first place. And in order to understand how this works, then we have to understand that karma can be analyzed into different sorts, each which have different potencies attached to them. And if you have your notes, then I'd like to draw your attention to the picture of the bullet. The first way we analyze karma is in terms of the strength of the retribution. And we can analyze karma into 4 different sorts. The worst sort is the heavy karma, which is at the tip of the bullet. And the sorts of actions which come into this category are ones which have very heavy consequences, disproportionately heavy consequences for the person who performs those sort of actions. In Buddhist terminology, sometimes we call this category of actions anantariya karma, or heavy karma. And they include actions such as, this is in a negative sense, killing one's father, killing one's mother, killing an arahant, harming a Buddha, or causing some sort of disharmony in the monastic community. So sometimes we hear about 5 different categories. Sometimes there's a 6th one added on, which is to masquerade as a monk, a Buddhist monk, but to be teaching things which are not the teachings of Buddhism. Also, it's said to be very heavy karma. If you think about it, and you think about me mentioning that heavy ingratitude is also adds to the toll of the karma, then you can understand why to murder your own mother or father has very heavy karmic value attached to it. To kill an arahant is also killing a person of very high virtue. So from there, supposing a person hasn't done any heavy karmas, either in a good or a bad way, the sort of transforming effects in their life will come from the karma which they do close to death. If a person is on their deathbed, then the last thing which they have on their mind before they pass away will have a very strong effect on their destiny from that time onwards. Even things which may seem trivial may have a very strong effect at that time, when the body and the mind are about to break free of one another. And it must be said that even if a person has led their life in a certain way throughout their life, but they can still mess it up if they are not careful about what happens to their mind or their behavior in the last moments before they die. There's a story told by a nun who's written many books in our temple about a monk who had led a good life as a monk, but at the moment when he was lying on his deathbed in the hospital, there were twigs scraping against the window of his hospital room. And instead of being able to make his mind calm as he was passing away, he had this terrible irritation from the sound of squealing twigs scraping backs and forwards against the window of his hospital room. So the last thing on his mind before he passed away was the irritation, intense headache, which was coming from this sound of squeaking twigs against his window. And as a result of that, instead of having a better rebirth when he passed away, he was reborn as a sort of spirit in that same tree which made the squealing noise to upset him. So even as a monk, you cannot be too careful. Sometimes it's not as spectacular as that, but it can be something as subtle as having a positive state of mind or having a negative state of mind when you are dying. There's a Buddhist proverb that the person who dies with a radiant mind will have fortunate realms as their afterlife destination. But the person who dies with a clouded mind will have the unfortunate realms as their afterlife destination. So even just your state of mind when you're dying can have a big effect on your destiny. Okay? If, failing all else, at the moment you're dying, you don't have any particularly strong good or bad karma on your mind, the next thing in the queue of karma which will have an effect on your destiny will be the sort of things which you've done habitually all your life. Why are habitual things stronger than things which we do on a one-off basis? Because we do them again and again. The more we do a particular sort of thing, the easier it is for us to do it again. So for example, a person who maybe smoked one cigarette in their life and never smoked one again, the sort of karma from that wouldn't be particularly strong. But a person who smokes 60 a day every day of their life, the karma becomes much heavier because it's suddenly becoming their habitual karma. This can work either in a good way or in a bad way. A person who is in the habit of always speaking in a polite way, that also has a karmic value which is positive. And it will be quite difficult for such a person to speak rudely because it's their habit always to speak politely. Their state of mind changes as a result of that. So the karma for a habit is much stronger than for just a one-off action.
This edition of Buddhist Culture is entitled From the Candlelight to the Symbol of Wisdom. This edition shows how candlelight can be used as a tool for meditation, creating an atmosphere of peace and serenity.
From candlelight to symbol of wisdom. Inviting candlelight to exist inside while meditating is a technique to still the mind inside the chamber of origin. From the gentle stillness, wisdom comes. Then the flame is turned to be the symbol of wisdom of the statue of Lord Buddha or Buddha image, which Buddhists call Gyet Bleo, or the eternal flame on the top knot of the head of the statue. Not only in the day of Buddhist Lent, but also throughout the year, during any time of meditation, Buddhists like to light a candle and love to make the flame to be the tool of concentration, or only to decorate the atmosphere, to make it more serene. Buddhists love any kind of light. It could be a flame of a candle or flame from a cotton thread soaked with oil in a tiny bowl, or even in a coconut shell. It is used for chanting or meditating. Buddhists will chant or meditate until the flame fades away. This could be in the late afternoon or in the evening, inside their shelter, or out at the temple place or stupa. The outside light acts as the shade of peace, but it is only external. The real peace should be inside, because it is the production of mind. When they are in the process of true meditation, a Buddhist always invites the image of candlelight in and places it at the center of the body, inside the chamber of origin. The teaching of Buddhism said, "Wisdom is inside. The body of wisdom, or body of enlightenment, is at the center of the body." Then, when they meditate, they learn to travel inward, and by visualization, the candlelight is the landmark inside. body of wisdom, or body of enlightenment, is the body of truth that turned Prince Siddhartha to be the Lord Buddha. Buddhism said, to be the Lord Buddha, one must blend the two bodies to be as one. They are the physical body with 32 signs of a great man called Rupakaya, and the principal body, or body of wisdom, that is the body of enlightenment called Dhammakaya. The Dhammakaya, or body of enlightenment, is provable only by true meditation through the center of the body, after the stillness at that point is completed. Then, the true traveling inward begins. As candlelight can lighten up the darkness of the night, the truth of enlightenment can conquer all troubles. Based on this principle, candlelight turns to be the symbol of wisdom. With this reason, the flame of candlelight that turns to be the symbol of wisdom has been put on the top knot of the statue of wisdom or Buddha image. This belief firstly became visible at Sri Lanka around 1,000 years ago. This was not the first time that a statue of wisdom was made, and from then on, the flood of culture and changes, most of Southeast Asia was influenced. And in Thailand, the most flourished land of Buddhism, this type of statue was seen in the time of Sukhothai period, or around 900 years ago, when the exchange of Buddhist monks between the two Buddhist countries were made. In Thailand, this type of statue was named Get Pleo. This has then come to be the major type of statue making of wisdom, from Sukhothai to Ayutthaya until now. geared blail, or the symbol of wisdom, is not the true picture of the body of enlightenment. It is only the image of light that stimulates wisdom. It is only to convey the truth that the real light is the light of wisdom, founded by Lord Buddha through meditation. It is the eternal light to lighten up the world of troublesome in which we survive.
Venerable Somsak Piyasila will be joining us next for meditation. This meditation session is suitable for anyone at any level of meditation, from beginner to advanced. With his invaluable information and tips, he will leave you feeling peaceful, relaxed, and mindful.
Welcome again back to the moment of peace. Of course, this is the meditation time for all of us. The term Chaitya is in the ancient Indian language, the Pali language, means the place, the building of high respect. It also includes the person who is very much respected. Such person will have a beautiful quality of being so firm and having equipped with the abundance of compassion. When we have become such a person, what we have is always peace and happiness. We also have the right answer in the everyday questions about life. And the answers will always take us to the peace and happiness, always. But how can we become such a person of the Chaitya, or to become the living Chaitya by ourselves? And the answer is meditation can bring us to that stage of life. If you are ready, ladies and gentlemen, find your favorite corner in your own room. You can sit on the floor if you have practiced enough with the support of the pillow, or if you prefer to sit on the chair, just do so. Just make sure the back is kept straight in order not to fall asleep. And when the back is straight, this is the moment we'll learn meditation together. Then we start with, we close the eyes. Just allow the eyelids come close. We don't press them tightly to one another. Allow the physical body to learn to relax, starting from the area around the forehead, muscles around the eyes, and the space between two eyebrows. Release the tensions around these areas. Let relaxation go over the whole head, the whole face, down to the neck and the shoulders. We can take some deep breaths to relax better. Allow the flow of relaxation cover the whole body, including the arms, the hands, fingers, downward to cover even the feet and 10 tiny toes. Observe the relaxation that has gone through the whole body. We can take some deep breaths again to relax much better. To become a person of much respect, there is a place inside. We then follow the breath deep. Follow the passage of the inhale. This will take us to the station of peace. The station of peace is where the in-breath turns out-breath. It is somewhere in the middle of the abdomen. Feel the existence of the turning point and the station of peace. Just welcome the mind to stay inside the body like forever. Here, inside, we shall spend our quiet time. It is when the mind doesn't move anymore. It is when the mind always stays in its own stillness and quietness. So allow time to progress as the mind rests in stillness. the peace and compassion can radiate just to share the peace we have. The compassion could be directed to all directions. So our shining sphere of peace can grow bigger as a means of radiation. The size of the sphere expands automatically, easily expanding, just to give love, peace, and compassion. It could grow towards our horizon. It's our own horizon that is filled with peace and compassion. This is a quality of the person of much respect. Meditation is just the key of being the living Chaitya. Just for the final part of this session, just observe and enjoy the quality of being the living Chaitya, filled with peace and compassion, and share such compassion to others living creatures. Observe the endless expansion of love we radiate. And we could draw a deep breath that will take us to confirm the existence of the mind at the station of peace. Meditation, the station of peace, take us to become the living Chaitya. Now we can slowly open up while maintaining the mind at the place of the Chaitya. We can slowly open up just to realize that meditation has changed us from a normal person to become the living Chaitya, the one of much respect. We can love and respect ourselves, and with the love and compassion, we have been respected by others as well. If we practice this often, we will turn ourselves from a normal person to become someone and become someone special. Hope you enjoy the feeling of love and compassion within yourselves, and enjoy being the living Chaitya just by means of meditation. Hope you success in meditation and improving your own selves, the quality, insight, the love and compassion. Until we meet again, remember to meditate often, only for yourselves, not for others. Until we meet again, have a good time. สวัสดี
We will now continue with Bob Mawson's inspirational story. His life after the heart transplant hasn't exactly been smooth sailing. In his battle with osteoporosis and shingles, prompting him to undergo another major surgery, meditation became more precious to him than ever, enabling him to see solutions as opposed to problems and making him a better person.
The drugs that I was taking when I first got my new heart gave me osteoporosis, a thinning of the bones, with resulting kyphosis, the body bending forward. And 2 years ago, I had a 12-hour operation, which is 3 times longer than a heart transplant, and I had to have metal rods put in my back. Those metal rods still cause me a lot of pain. And then, nearly 2 years ago, I got shingles. I don't know if you know what shingles is. It's a herpes infection. Normally, you get it if you've had chicken pox. And I had chicken pox as a child, and the shingles was in a band around my waist, from my navel to my spine, about this wide with blisters on it, very painful. So painful you can't even wear a shirt. So I really had to use meditation to help me with the shingles. Shingles is normally caused by stress. However, it's also caused by certain drugs. So mine was drug-induced. I'm still in pain. It's called post-herpetic neuralgia. If you know what neuralgia is in teeth, it's terrible, terrible pain. Well, I have that pain from my navel to my spine, but I'm very lucky because I know how to meditate, and I know how to use meditation to help me on a daily basis with that pain. I don't know what other people would do with similar pain who do not know how to meditate. It is well documented in medical studies around the world that meditation helps with depression. And I will give you a first-hand account of that. I taught in Chicago for 20 weeks total. I would fly from New York to Chicago, it's 1,000 miles, from a small airfield near my home, airport near my home, and I would teach in Chicago on a Wednesday night and fly back to New York the next day. I was teaching at a Wat Patamagai meditation center there. And one of my students called me, a woman, and told me she had a friend who was a medical doctor from Africa, and he was suicidal. He wanted to kill himself because he got his MD in England, went back to his country, and now was working in a hospital with his brother. But the American immigration wanted to deport him back to Africa. And he did not want that because he knew he was doing a lot of good in the USA. So he was telling me this on the phone. So I said to him, "Doctor, can you wait until tomorrow to kill yourself? And he said, yes, why do you ask? I said, because I am coming to Chicago tomorrow, and if you kill yourself today, then I won't be able to meet you, and you are my brother. I just haven't met you yet, and you might be from Africa, but you are still my brother, and I want to meet you. So I arranged to meet him the next day, and I met him in a park, on a park bench. It looked like something from a James Bond film. And then I told him that he had to believe in miracles. And he said, I am a medical doctor. I believe in science. So I had not had my heart transplant at this time. This is before my heart transplant. But I undid my shirt and I showed him my scar from my open heart surgery. And I showed him my defibrillator in my chest sticking out here. I said, doctor, that defibrillator is a miracle. I have 2 metal heart valves. I have had open heart surgery. That is a miracle. I have been dead by that time I had been dead 5 times and revived. Those are miracles. Please don't tell me there is no such a thing as a miracle. So he said, so what do I do now? Just believe in miracles. And I walked away. About 2 months later, my phone rang. It was this doctor. And he was very excited. And he told me a miracle had happened. He had been given an amnesty by the American government. And he was bringing his wife and children to the USA. And he was working in the hospital with his brother. And he said, if you come to Chicago again, I hope you will come and visit my brother and me in our hospital and see what we're doing. And the next time I went to Chicago, I went to that hospital. And here were these 2 doctors treating very poor black people for very little money. They were not in medicine to become rich. They were in medicine to help people. There are lots of studies to show, and I taught the doctor to meditate, by the way. And I told him to continue meditating and always believe in miracles. And they happened for him. And I have seen people, other people, I could sit here all afternoon or all morning and tell you stories about people who were depressed, who have meditated with me and found an inner peace, and the depression has left them and never returned. Many of those people, these people who are making decisions for the world, have problems themselves, personal problems. So I ask all of my students, when was the last time you told the person who's closest to you that you love them? Was it today? Was it yesterday? Was it last week? Was it last year? For those of you whose parents are alive and you lived in a family where there was love, how many of you have called home to say nothing else than, Dad, I love you, or Mom, I love you, or Mom and Dad, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate everything you've done for me? When was the last time you did that? The next week when I came, most of those students whose parents were alive had gone straight out and called their parents just to say, I love you. So you see, the meditation makes a difference. How can meditation work in our daily lives? As I mentioned to you before, in our daily lives, we are bombarded with stimuli. We are bombarded with problems. There are lots of problems in life. I don't come here telling you there are no problems out there. There are huge problems outside of Wat Pah Tamagai. It's how you confront those problems. If you confront those problems with the quiet, clear mind, they don't seem like problems anymore. Or if they are, they were huge before. With that quiet, clear mind, they become very small. They become unimportant. The same when the robbers came to my house. Because my wife was not meditating, wah! The black belt in karate came out, you know. But for me, the meditator came out. And from meditation, what came? Love, compassion, understanding. Those are the faces of meditation, the meditator. Someone who cares about other people, someone who's compassionate. Have you ever heard of a meditation teacher beating someone up in the street? I don't think so. I still think, even at 63 years old, that I'm quite capable of beating people up. But I don't want to. I would rather give them a hug. But I'd much rather give someone a hug today than to fight them. But we can use meditation in our daily lives to look out in this turbulent world and see the possibility for peace. And you know, there are people who say, well, what can I do? There's only me. If Gandhi had said that, what would the world be like? If Prince Siddhartha had said that, what would the world be like? You see, it takes one. And that one touches someone else's life, it touches someone else's life, and so it goes on. So each and every one of you have that potential. And I'm including myself when I say that, of course.
I hope you have enjoyed this edition of Meditation for All. Your questions and comments are most welcome and they can be sent to meditationforall@yahoo.com. Goodbye for now. สวัสดีค่ะ